Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for being here. Our first meeting of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Before we get started, I'd just like to ask everybody to please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll of the Ways and Means Committee members, and then also I'll recognize members who are not on the committee.
Roll call of the members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Guanasso is absent. Councilor Morabito?
Here.
Here. Councilor Patch? Here. Councilor Rotundo is absent. And Chairman Rizzo?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
Okay. Other members that are in attendance, Councilor McKenna from Ward 1, and Councilor Powers. Are you on the committee, Ways and Means? Okay, so thank you for being here. Councilor Powers from Ward 5 is also here to participate in this subcommittee meeting. Of course, I will recognize individually our department heads that are here. I want to thank them for taking time out, as they do every year, to come out and talk about their individual departmental budget. This is an important process. One of the most important duties that the City Council has is fiscal oversight. And so it's this time of year where we come together and try to figure out what makes the most sense financially for the taxpayers. And so this year we're looking at, currently, as proposed by the mayor, at a budget of $206,992,903. City Council will do our best to make sure that every dollar of that proposed budget is spent wisely, and if we find that there may be areas to cut that will help the taxpayer, then that is what we intend to do. So many of you have been here for a long time. You understand the process. So what I'll do is, you probably got your invitation to come here this evening to this first meeting. I'll call you in order as you're listed on there, just in the matter of fairness, so I'm not jumping out of order. These were put together by our clerk and actually mimic last year's meetings that were held with the Ways and Means Committee. One last thing before we get started, just for the edification of my colleagues and edification of the public, and actually edification for those of you that are here. You may find yourself in a similar situation. I just received my budget this morning. You know, I know by law the city has until June 20th, I believe, to submit it, but it's been a practice, or at least one that's been advocated by the City Council, that the budget is received by the City Council by June 1st. So we set these meetings in motion a while ago and set June 12th, thinking that would give us ample time to look at the budget itself. Unfortunately, I've had since this morning to look at it. So, and I venture to say that my colleagues are in the same boat, unless somehow they had advance notice of this budget, and I'm sure they didn't. So you guys are in the precarious situation of maybe not having any of us have an immediate rush or an immediate rush to judgment as to what we'd like to do with your particular budget, but this meeting was scheduled. You are here. We do have the budget, so I'll call you up individually. We'll go through. Once you go through your portion of the budget with us, I'll open it up to councilors for questions, and we'll try to move this along just as quickly as we can. Okay, so with that, our first...
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Patch.
before you get started, if I could ask the auditor a couple questions.
Councilor Patch.
Rich, like I discussed, every budget that I've had in 11 years, they have names in them, along with the salaries of each individual. And this is the first year that names aren't present. I just think it's, and there's a reason why in the past that it was good that names were in there, because we managed to discover a few things. So for transparency, I was wondering why there's no names with the salaries. I mean,
Thank you, Counselor. Again, thank you for having me, and happy to answer any questions. I am prepared to come to every budget meeting to help my department heads discuss their budget. I believe that this is probably the most transparent budget you've received. To answer your question, why there are no names, because the salaries are there. This isn't a political process where names need to be mentioned. If salaries need to be cut, they could be cut based upon position, based upon the amount of the budget. However, I believe, and been doing this 15 years, that putting names in there really becomes more of a finger point and individualizing people in departments, and that such, I don't believe is part of what we're here for. So I think that I can certainly give you a name of any particular person you may be looking for. We can certainly get your names of people, but I don't think that as part of the budget process, the names are as important as the data that is behind the budgets themselves.
well, it's not the reason of, I don't believe anybody ever cut, we ever cut a reason, the reason was for the name. What the problem is that, you know, I know in the past, you know, you go through the budget the first time, and you see a name might be missing, and you're like, you know, you would like to just.
I can assure you there's no names missing from this budget, Council.
Well, how do we know that?
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Council Morabito, state your point.
So I just looked at 3 physical budgets, actually 4, 4. And there was only 1 budget that included the names.
Well, that's not.
Absolutely true. If you want, after this meeting, we'll go down to the clerk's office and look at the history. There was only 1 budget that provided names. Also, if anything, since I've been on this council, looking at the budgets, it's been more evolved. Not only is there more definition to it, it's easier to go through. There's table of contents, there's glossary, it individualizes all the funds. Even the school budget is itemized. So I just want to state that point.
Thank you for that point of information. Councilor Patch, do you have anything further to add?
I'm just saying that I strongly believe that I am right, and that names were on every budget that I looked at.
I can speak, you know,
Yeah.
let me just, I'll just end the discussion. Administrations change. During my administration, we did have names in the back of the budget. Everybody was listed, who was a city employee. It's, this is a public process. It's public information. If someone were to take that and make it become political, then it's an issue. But, it is one, but, I don't think there's any adverse impact or effect on anybody if we know who works for the city. So I just don't see it that way. Council McKenna?
Yes, thank you. It is public record, and every year, the Revere Journal comes out with the first 100 people in the city with their salaries. So I can't see a problem why you wouldn't put the salaries of the people in your budget. That's just how I feel. I mean, it is public record. And we're not going to discriminate over a salary. I don't think, I've been on the council for 3 years, we've never took that issue up, so it would be nice to see who's making what. So that's just my point, thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Powers, please? And then we'll move on to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not to be contrary to the councilor to my right, but I spent many years preparing budgets at the Recreation Department, and in subsequent years as Chair of Ways and Means when I became a councilor. And I always do remember a name being beside a position. And not that it's a big issue, but I think it helped us a lot in defining who did what in a particular department. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for that point. Well, I think the point is that there are several councilors who would like to see a roster of city employees and what positions. In other words, if there's an administrative assistant, just who fills that position. That was something that we had used. You could go back and forth and say, well, there's more information. I'm not exactly sure, because like I say, I just got the budget today. I don't know how much more information is in this budget than the last budget I prepared back in FY16. But I'm looking at this right now for the first time, and we'll go through it. We'll go through each department. If there's information that we need, or if the department head was asked a question by one of the councilors here, okay, well, who is this assistant solicitor? Who is this administrative assistant? Then of course they can answer, and so we can still get that information anyway without having, but I mean, I understand where the council is coming from to have the names actually here, so we don't have to keep going back and forth, well, who's been here, who might be approaching retirement, who might be, there's different reasons why councilors may want, the names of people who fill these positions, so.
Excuse me. Again, I was asked a question why the names weren't in the budget, and I said that I want to depoliticize the process. There's more information in this budget that this council has ever seen in the past. The names are withheld, but the titles are there. Most of you know exactly who's who. There's no secrecy. If there's a name of a person that you would like, we're happy to provide that information. Again, we know it's listed in the newspaper. I think we're missing the spirit of what the reason is that this is a document that has numbers, and the council can either vote the numbers or cut them. In my history of doing this, I'd rather see numbers cut, not people's names or people individually. So again, you're going to see a lot of things differently than you see in the past, but I'm here for every meeting to try to explain the differences and why, and hopefully by the end, you'll find it to be a good process overall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to call first our city solicitor. I see representing the solicitor's office is our city solicitor, Paul Capizzi. Paul, thank you for coming to.
Oh, my pleasure. Good evening, councilors. Happy to be here.
Can I ask you how happy you are to be here? So rather, again, for the benefit of my colleagues that are here at this meeting, we were handed tonight pages that would address mission statements, accomplishments, and then goals and objectives. If you want to go through that, Paul, you can very briefly. If you don't, we can go right to the numbers and you can go right through.
It's entirely up to you folks. I think the language in those pages speaks for itself. It's rather simple. It's rather simple and direct. I don't think there's any
that's
ambiguity
fine.
about it. It's entirely up to you guys.
We can bypass that.
That
If
would be
councilors
fine with
have
me.
questions pertaining to it, they can ask.
Yep,
But
that's
for the
fine.
time being, let's just go right
Yep,
to the
'cause
numbers.
you got a lot of
This is
people
section 2, page 32, for members of the council. Section 2, page 32. And Paul, do you want to just run through that with us? And
Sure. These are all my expenses, have been my expenses since I've started this position. These are numbers that I've requested for the most part, and the administration was kind enough to keep as they are based on the needs of my office. So nothing here is really out of the ordinary, except the outside legal services is being readjusted a little bit. But other than that, everything is fine. Except for the salary. My salary is just not high enough, but we're gonna get off that for right now.
okay. Okay. Do any members of the committee have questions for Paul Capizzi? Members of the Ways and Means Committee, which I believe is Council Morbido. You a member of the Ways and Means Committee? Okay. And Councilor Patch, correct? Okay, so do either one of you have questions for the solicitor?
No questions at this time.
No questions? Councilor Patch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just got a question on the outside legal services.
Okay?
I remember, just recently, we got an email that stated figures, and it was much,
Higher than what you see
Higher
here?
than this.
Yes, that's correct. So during the last fiscal year, my office was tasked with paying all legal bills, which historically I had not always done, which included the 40U program and the outside labor council. This year now, what the administration is proposing, and I agree with actually, is that the outside labor council, giving it more of its HR component, will be, I believe, and Richard Viscay can correct me if I'm wrong, will be attached now to the HR department, and the 40U, given it's the Safe Housing Task Force, will be attached to inspectional services. So the number that you saw from this fiscal year, which was an increase, was all of those bills combined, so I had asked for more than what I was originally got at the start of the fiscal year. But now they're sort of splitting it, dividing it into 3 different sections. So all that I will be responsible for in terms of my office are the legal needs of my office specifically, not the 40U program, the Safe Housing Task Force, and not the outside labor, which does a lot of negotiations for the collective bargaining agreements and the union issues. So that's why that's been reduced.
do you have a total figure of all of the fees?
That was already, I think, provided to the council for this past fiscal year. I don't have it with me, but it was, yeah, certainly higher than what what's being offered, recommended for 2019.
Any other councilors? Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the number here for litigation, $3,000.
The litigation?
Yep.
Yeah, that's for litigation expenses outside, that when we do litigation, that is Dan Doherty, the assistant solicitor, or myself, we sometimes need money to either conduct a deposition or to maybe get some expert report or some expert witness. So that's a small amount of money, really, which we don't always use it every year. It depends on the cases that come in, whether we're going to need it or not, or how in-depth we're going to get in litigating it. So that's what that money is specifically for, anything litigation related.
Just hypothetically, someone files a claim against the city for a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever it might be, for damage that's been caused by something that the city did. Where's that money coming out of?
Oh, that will come out of not out of the litigation, that comes out of the settlement budget, the $25,000.
Okay.
That's the budget that we use to settle smaller claims, street pothole claims, slip and falls, maybe sewer or water damage breaks, things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Welcome,
Chairman.
Any other councilors have questions? So I have a couple of questions, Paul.
Sure did.
Number one, when I became a member of the Revere City Council back in January of 2018, I asked for all outside legal fees from January 1st of 16 going forward, and who, because the legal fees, following it as an outsider, seemed like they had spiked incredibly. In fact, they doubled, and actually in some cases almost tripled for outside legal fees. So I had asked for very simple requests to get a copy of all the outside legal fees that were spent and where they were spent on. That, I mean...
Have you not received that?
They had to... No, I have not received it.
Oh, okay. That's not my understanding. Okay.
So, and I had emailed, they sent a portion of something. I can't off the top of my mind recall, but I sent Nick Romano back an email saying, this is an incomplete, report of a request that I had made. And I never heard back from him, never got a response. So, I mean, I'm just looking at it now. My last budget, $181,584, it jumped to $355,000. In FY17, $410,000. And it looks like outside legal budgeted in 2018 was $269,000, and as of third quarter FY18, we've already surpassed that with $331,000 in outside legal fees. Now, do we have any major lawsuits that is being defended that's costing the city tens of thousands of dollars right now?
No, those costs are associated primarily with the Safe Housing Task Force, the 40U program, which, as you know, also brings in money. And I believe that a new department revolving account is being also proposed for this coming year. And the outside labor costs, which is really a contingent upon what's going on at the time in terms of negotiating the various collective bargaining agreements or
Well,
any.
but how much are we spending on outside, first of all, you know, I mean, outside labor costs to negotiate contracts. I mean, we negotiated contracts back during the 4 years prior. I mean, like, and I just don't understand this major spike in what we're spending to negotiate. I'll
All
go
I can
through
say in
collective
terms of,
bargaining.
since I do review the bills, is that there's just been a lot more involved this past year for some reason, and I'm not a part of those negotiations, that required greater labor time, greater lawyer time in dealing with the labor unions on behalf of the city. The hourly rate, I think, is a little bit higher than what we've paid in the past. I think we've always paid about $150 an hour in the past. This year, we're paying $200 an hour on outside labor. The 40U program, that cost is still the same at $150 an hour. It just depends on how many homes are put on the Safe Housing Task Force list and how much work has to be done in dealing with those problem properties throughout the city.
Where are we picking up revenues? Again, I haven't gone through the entire document here. Where are we picking up revenues from the 40U program? Is it showing anywhere here in the budget?
It won't be in my budget. Richard can probably more readily answer that question.
Excuse me, as part of the department revolving fund article that we brought forward that you've ordained, costs for the 40U program will go into the revolving fund, and that will help pay for the administrative costs. And then once they get lean, those revenues become general fund revenues and go to basically when free cash is certified. So it's the surplus of estimated revenues versus actual revenues in the general fund. But what we've done is, to Paul's point, he's getting these bills, and it's hard to match the revenues because they go into the general fund to the expenses that are borne by the operating budget. So as part of trying to streamline and match revenues and expenses, we put the 40U program in a revolving fund. And same for tax title, we create that revolving fund as well. So we're trying to match some of these legal costs with the expenses that go along with them. And you will see in the HR budget, we've put labor relation costs within his budget so that he can manage those costs. And now Paul actually has a budget of costs that he would actually manage and control. So we're trying to put the budgets where they belong, and hopefully that will reduce the cost and give a little bit more of awareness to the departments who are using outside counsel to stay within that budget.
Right, well, okay, and, totally understood, but the 40U program is just one program. That's just one program. I mean, I just look at what, Paul Capizzi is making here. Now, he's our solicitor. His salary is at $104,635. I mean, we've gone from $181,000 in outside legal fees up to, we're on pace to go over $400,000 again this year. So, I mean, how many city solicitors could we hire? Or, I mean, if we hired one more full-time city solicitor, could we get rid of a couple $100,000 of outside legal fees to get one more full-time employee, not just somebody that's handling 40U? I mean, this is part of what I've always thought should take place during these budget deliberations. You see some things that are in-house. Are they going to be less expensive if we put it outside to bid as opposed to do things in-house? And vice versa. If there's things we're spending a ton of money on, what about bringing it into the city, seeing if we can do it ourselves to save some money? You're talking $200 an hour on outside legal fees when, I mean, Paul, I'm sure you wish you were making $200 an hour here with the city right now.
I do wish that very much.
Just to your point, Counselor, I believe that through this whole budget process, we did exactly what you said. We have always looked, and during this budget process, whether we should bring in more staff in-house or hire out professionals. In this case, we've tried to...
No, I'm sure, Rich, no disrespect to you right now, because I know you're defending the administration's position right now, but it's just, It's just, we're the city council. And so,
It's not disrespect, I'm just explaining what you're.
No, I'm
you've asked,
saying
and
I'm not
trying to explain-
disrespecting.
No,
you
I
know,
understand, I'm just
yeah.
trying to explain that.
That you've already done it.
It does, yeah, it
But that-
wasn't as if that we just
But do you
decided-
understand, like, the process,
Of
right?
course I understand the process.
Okay, so like, the city council gets the budget, the city council can't add to the budget. We can only cut the budget, or we can make recommendations. We can't insist to the administration that we want you to hire a solicitor, and,
Yeah, it's a different branch of government, I
but this is
understand.
open for conversation.
Oh, and
So
I'm
that's
trying
what
to-
we're doing. I mean, we can't, every time that we come up with a potential conversation with a department head, I don't want to wind up in a situation where, we have to defend our questions, and, I mean, this is a budget process where typically it's just between the Ways and Means Committee and the department heads.
Well, I mean, you're asking a question, and I'm here to help answer them, so I just want to make sure that when the question's answered, that.
Yeah, my
we
question
have-
was to the solicitor about, do you think it's better to have a city solicitor? I mean, what does the number mean? 400,000 in outside legal fees, does it make sense to look at another, I mean, do you have a reason why we shouldn't hire a full-time solicitor and continue to pay over 400,000 a year to outside legal
Because
services?
certain lawyers are experts in certain subject matter, and we would have to have a full staff that are experts on every single subject matter that comes to the municipality. So it's very common to have city solicitor that deals with the broad range of things that are within their purview, and then you have specialists that deal with contract negotiation, 40U fines, and such. So, yeah, I mean, again, this conversation with regard to whether we should bring more staff in or hire contractors goes through every budget. So I just don't want it to be perceived that no one has considered this at all. That's all my point was.
Any other councilors have any questions? Paul, I just want to say, from my standpoint, I know we didn't go through all your expenditures here, but they're, they seem very typical of.
Yeah, I think we do a pretty good job in getting what we get done with the amount of money that we're given. There was a little increase in the legal research just because the Westlaw system that we use, that goes up a little bit every year. But other than that, it's rare that I actually spend all this money. Occasionally, it really depends on what's going on, year to year. So I do the best that I can to project what the needs will be. And
So while we're on that, Paul, just before, and I was just going to let you,
Sure.
but I'm just, as I'm looking at the expenditure page, it looks like you requested in the FY19 budget $600,000 of outside legal fees. So
I
what
did.
was the purpose of that?
because I thought if I was going to continue to process payment for the D'Ambrosia Brown for the 40U program and for the Outside Labor Council, Matt Buckley, that I would need extra money because of the extent of the work that they do. I mean, just the Carabetta building alone, and I know Ira Novoselsky's not here, that was, I don't know, maybe over 100 hours worth of work by D'Ambrosia Brown to prosecute and follow through with all those violations down on Ocean Avenue. Just that project alone, I think we were paying about $40,000 a month for like 3 months, just for those properties. That's how extensive it's gotten. But again, I will say that's well worth the investment because of the fines that we do collect in return. What Richard was, I think, instrumental in helping is to kind of take some of that fine money and use it to then put it towards that portion of the bill, which is why it's now not in my outside legal budget. But that was a huge jump, that and the outside legal, that and the Labor Council.
Okay. All right. I expected just to, kind of look at the typical office supplies and, nothing in the execution account? You don't keep anything in the
No,
execution
we've been
account?
very lucky. What we never do in the execution, as you may recall, the execution is sort of like the snow removal account. That's for judgments. That's if we go to trial and we lose and some jury or some judge awards some damages against the city. We can't predict that. So we're allowed to keep that open and borrow against the future for that, much like the snow removal budget. You never know how much snow you're going to get. So that budget is sort of one of the unique items, I think, in the entire budget that allows you to do that. So that's why that's always blank. And I think Dan Doherty in my office really does a fantastic job in trying to get rid of these cases quick or settle them for short money. And he's been very successful the last 10 years.
Yeah, I think that your department has always done a tremendous job. And
Thank you.
while I haven't had much interaction with you, over the last 6 months since returning to city council, you know, it's been my impression during my prior 12 years as council and 4 years as mayor that, you know, you guys are working up there, you're absolutely earning your money. And if there's no other councilors that have anything further for Attorney Capizzi, then Council Patch, you had something, someone asked a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just, on your discussion here, I believe a good chunk of that outside legal expense is for labor in negotiation. And I believe that all the unions are going to be negotiating again next year. And maybe it would be a good idea to recommend a full-time labor lawyer for the city. Just a thought. Thank you.
If I may, that's an idea that's been kicked around a little bit. We haven't actually done the full analysis. Again, it's year to year. In some cases, it may make more sense, at least in one fiscal year. It would look like we'd save money if we had an attorney inside, but don't. And I'm not going to tell you guys what you don't already know, but you hire an attorney, you got benefits, you got all of that. Where if you have outside counsel, you don't have any of that. So we do the best that we can, and maybe we should consider that, negotiating the price for the outside counsel to try to save the city money. So in some years, it may seem like a very fiscally sound idea to bring in and hire an inside labor counsel. But if you got to look at the numbers down the road for the long haul, what's it going to cost every year? So the years, once the contracts are all settled, we don't really pay that much out to labor counsel. But then you'd still have to pay the in-house attorney every year, whatever his salary would be. I am not, by the way, not opposed to having another attorney in my office. I'm just saying, I haven't really crunched the numbers myself, and I know I could sit down with the mayor and maybe Richard and George and Zoni at some point and kind of go over this to see if it makes sense to bring in a third person and reduce the need for the outside counsel. That has come up. That idea has come up. But we haven't really come up with the final solution as to what's the most cost-effective way to go forward from here. So right now, we're leaving it alone because we get a great deal of support. I can't say enough about the Ambrosia Brown, and they're not offering me a job or anything, but they've been tremendous in responding to everything I need. They do our title work. They've been terrific on the 40U program. We really couldn't get it going without their assistance. And when you look at all that money being spent on the 40U, if you take that and divide it by 150 and divide by how many hours that is, some of that is 6, 7, 8 months of a full-timer person just doing that work. And that would be costly for the city, both inside and outside, but I think right now we're saving a little money because we're not paying for any of the benefits of having another attorney in the office. But that's not my financial position, it's just my thought about it.
If I could just jump in, see, that's the reason why I want to have these conversations, so we can talk it out in here. It's not to create some sort of a controversial discussion. It's to air it out and talk about it. We have once a year that we go over the budget, and, you know, with that, we get about 15 minutes to talk to you about it.
That's true.
So this is the reason why I like to have these conversations.
And I don't think anyone's opposed to those conversations. I'm just here to help answer them, Council.
Councilor Powers, did you have one final thing? And then we're going to move along because we've got other department heads that are here, and I really want to have everybody out of here by 7 o'clock as it was scheduled. So,
Thank you. Paul?
Yes.
Question. As you know, the boatyard down in Point of Pines and the 565 North Shore Road, that old refrigeration building, they're being handled by the Ambrosio Brown. Do you have any idea what the current amounts on the fines are? Just a ballpark figure with regard to that?
You know, John, I don't, and if I knew you were going to ask me that question, I would have looked at it before coming here. I don't know when you're doing inspectional services, but they might have a more concrete answer. But if you want, I can get that answer to you at a later date.
I'm curious as to the boatyard in that building on North Shore Road. My understanding is at one point, the building on North Shore Road was over a couple of $100,000.
Yeah, no, the fines can go very, very high. With this new 40U program, we're able to fine up to $500 per day per violation. And quite frankly, if some of the owners are out of state or they have a lot of money, they'll just pay the fines. And if not, it goes on their tax bill, and we wind up collecting it either way.
At what point does it go on the tax bill?
Again, that's a better question for inspectional services that does this. I don't know what the timeline is on that. I don't know how long after it's not paid, they get an opportunity to appeal it, they get an opportunity, I think a second or third time to pay it. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. After which, if we don't get the money or they don't show up to appeal it, and they don't pay it, we put it on their tax bill.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Paul?
Thank you, guys.
Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Before we move on to the License Commission, I think it should be said, notwithstanding the fact that, we had some back and forth here.
That's right.
I think, Rich, this is your first budget that you've prepared for the city. Is this the first one you've done, or is this the second one?
Yes, Council, first one.
This is your first one. So you should be credited with coming into a city, being able to put the budget together. It's a little bit different than what we're used to. There's some tweaks that we'd probably like to see, but I think you should be complimented for putting it all together and jumping in and picking up where Laurie Giardella left off. So just want to mention
No, I appreciate that, and that's why I thought it was important for me to be here to try to help navigate it, and not been here in the past. Some of the things may be different. Again, I am happy for some feedback, but if you ask me a question, I hope to have an answer on why something's presented the way it is. And certainly, like I said in the memo in the inside cover, I don't know what the policy was before, but my door's open, and councilors can call me or email me, ask me anything they'd like, if they wanted to follow up on any detail or data or anything like that. So happy to do it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Paul, again, thank you. Keep up the good work. Did you have something for me?
I'm also the License
Oh, you're
Commission.
here for the license?
There's really not much to talk about in the License Commission budget.
All right. All right, so if the councilors could turn to Section 2, 41 through 43. I don't think there should be too many questions. Paul, do you want to run through it real quick?
Sure, supplies and the salaries for the commission. That's kind of it.
Any questions from the council? There's no change here.
No, none of that's been changed, and you all know that the clerk is in my solicitor's budget. So this is really just the supplies and the payment to the members of the 3 License Commission members, which
Okay.
is $3,200.
Well, if there's no questions from the council, I don't think there's much there that the city council wants to debate right now on that. So thank you both for your service as the city solicitor and for representing the License Commission here this afternoon.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be the Election Commission, Diane Kalawa.
Good afternoon.
And that would be pages 38 through 40, Section 2. Diane?
The only thing, the biggest difference that we had is this year I established a printing general ledger. We do an awful lot of printing, and in prior years, it was lumped into the computer services account. So I figured it was time to now break it away from that so we could get a better handle on how much we actually do spend. Last year it was about $15,000.
Okay.
That's just an estimate. And that's for the annual city census, the street list book, different things that we have to print in the office, confirmation cards for the mailings and such.
Okay, I know, again, we received your mission statement, accomplishment, goals, and objectives. We're not going to have time unless you want to talk about a couple of them.
I'm fine with it, sir.
It's up to you, but we'll have a chance to look at that on our own prior to the next meeting, or certainly before any recommendations are made. Any councilors have any questions on Diane's budget for the Election Commission? Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Diane, you were just before the council a couple of weeks ago, and you've been helping out the engineer department with situating the whole address changes of it. Each address will have one number. Did you request for an extra clerk or an extra?
I did request for a part-time
Associate.
position.
Were you granted it? Because I don't see it.
I don't think so, no.
And what is your anticipated salary that this person would make? Would it be a part-time?
It would just be a
full-time
part-time person. It would, I think they wanted under 20 hours.
What would you recommend for a
I-
salary? And what was the mayor's suggestion or comments based on your recommendation?
I think the employment director wants it to be under 20 hours perhaps so that you don't have to pay them benefits. We didn't really get into that part of the conversation as far as going into a salary recommendation. I know minimum
But-
wage is $11 per hour,
Was
so
he,
I don't know.
did you ask him to reflect it in the budget, or is there a line item, Mr. Viskey, is there a line item that reflects
What,
I don't think it's other salaries, because nothing major is changed.
no, you're right, Counselor. There was a request to add a part-time position to the budget for fiscal year 19. We didn't feel that, there were many positions asked for that weren't funded, but we do have other salaries, poll worker salaries and such embedded in there. So by our understanding and to Diane telling us that, you know, she does bring in sometimes some of these poll workers to help her out in case where she needs it, but we were happy to help her with her current staff and have her full-time 3-person staff addressed. And, you know, fiscal year 2020, I'm sure we'll hear again about the workload, but for this particular budget, there was a request for a part-time person, and it wasn't granted in full-time 19-hour a week. However, there are some part-time wages that should help her when she gets busy.
So in other salaries, can you give me a description of what that would be? Is that, because there's permanent salaries, poll workers, so in other salaries, what would
What it
be
is, okay, I'm sorry.
defined
Let me
under
just
other
explain.
salaries? I guess, you know,
No.
being on this board, I'd like to know what other salaries is.
Okay, so other salaries are the custodians that work here in the building, and we also have custodians' salaries that are located in the schools. The way we pay the, okay.
Others-
I'm sorry, can I just want to, the way it works is that when I need help, I call in my poll workers to assist me, and I said that if the part-time position wasn't granted, could they please just allow me to continue the practice of hiring the poll workers in? And that, they are paid from the poll worker account, and I usually pay them about $13 an hour, because they are basically doing a lot of the work that they don't do my work, but they do a lot of the things within the department to help us out.
Okay. The reason I'm being so inquisitive
Sure.
about this matter is because I want to make sure you're all set, because the whole situation with everyone's address, majority of people's addresses changing from having 2 numbers to 1 number, I think it's something we need to have a grasp on.
Thank you, sir.
And handle. So if that other salaries figure does not reflect that part-timer or a sufficient amount of resources that you need to get the job done, I'd like to add that. I don't know how my colleagues feel.
Just to be clear, Counselor, the council can't add to a budget, they can cut.
No, but we can make suggestions and.
Oh, yeah, okay. But again, there are part-time salaries that are available to the city clerk and through the Elections Commission to address these matters. But again, we weren't committed to putting 19 hours on 52 weeks a year. So again, we think it's a reasonable compromise in the scope of the entire budget.
Also, I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
So I noticed under new equipments, there's nothing listed for fiscal year 2015, 2016, 2017. Is there a reason why? I'm sure we purchased some kind of new equipment.
We did. We upgraded the equipment last year, and it was about $105,000.
Was that out of, Mr. Viskey, was that funded by a different resource?
It's hard to speak from what happened in the past, why that organ object number, there certainly is a slot to put appropriations for new equipment, but we have a whole section of the ledger that deals with capital purchases, so my guess would be that that money was put into a series of accounts that has to do with the capital, and that's where the appropriation must have been.
I had come before the council, and the council approved I
Was the
believe it was the
ETP
capital
funding?
account. I believe it came from a capital account because I had to come before the council and request the money to be transferred.
I think so. Yeah, but okay, so it came out of the capital, because I didn't see it in the budget under capital reports.
Just as, and I don't know how it's worked in the past, but just, a lot of times what you put in the capital accounts, because if it crosses fiscal years, it can remain in that fund, where these general fund appropriations are usually closed at the end of the year, so that's why it may be in the capital account.
Got it.
Thank you. Council Patch, you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, no, I don't have any questions for Diane. I just want to thank her for the good work that she does in her office staff, and, no, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Councilor Pash, thank you.
Diane,
Counselor.
I don't have any questions. I
Thank
think
you.
whatever questions I had have been answered.
Okay,
Thank you for your service. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for your
sir.
time here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Next up will be the Conservation Board. Anybody here from the Conservation Board? Then the City Council should go to Section 2, page 44 through 46. Again, I think this is pretty straightforward. You're looking at an entire budget of a total expense of $7,000 a year. So I don't believe that we're going to have anything overly controversial here. Any councilors? Any questions? Okay, so we'll move on from the Conservation Commission, and we will go to Commission on Disability, pages 118 to 120.
Good evening.
Yes, again, this, you know, for the members, I don't think this is going to be, again, overly controversial. There was, it looks like an increase in here of about $3,000. Maybe you could clarify that for members of the...
If I could first, since I had created, if I could do my mission statement and the accomplishments for the edification of the council for 2018. The mission statement, of course, is since the Commission on Disabilities has been reestablished, is to increase opportunities and remove barriers for the people with disabilities by facilitating full and equal participation in all the aspects within the city of Revere. What we've done in 2018 is we enhanced the Commission on Disabilities webpage with downloadable forms and other important information for residents with disabilities. We created a disability page with useful information for all the disabled residents and families in our community, along with having monthly meetings that are televised live in the council chambers at night. And we created 2 new handicap parking applications and a medical form, and we also created documentations with an explanation on the criteria that's needed to be met and what will be needed for submission for an application before individuals begin the process, which can be found on the disability page on the city website. This is to try and alleviate the people from trying to do a lot of the paperwork and in the end find that they will not be able to apply for a handicap sign. So we're trying to streamline the process for them. Also, once the handicap application process goes through the Traffic Commission, I provide them with all the documentation and images right to the Traffic Commission so they can see the house, the location, and all applicable information that's needed. If it is approved, then what I've tried to do to streamline it, because it seemed to be getting lost in the shuffle for years, is right from that point I contact 311 and start a work order so that handicap sign will be put up, because it seemed in the past, once a handicap sign was approved, it could have taken anywhere from 6 to 10 months to be installed. So I'm trying to streamline that process to the best of my ability along with the DPW. Also, one thing that I wanted to get done when I first came onto the commission is through the state is to organize the MOD office to come in to do an ADA Title I and Title II training for all department heads, counselors, and whatnot to come in. And from my information from the state MOD, that was the first time that that was done in the city of Revere. And feedback that I got from different department heads, it was very beneficial. I also learned a lot from that. There's a lot of information that I didn't know that, you know, you can't assume some things, and a lot of information was learned by me. Also, I created a new disability accessibility survey for the residents in Revere, so that in both English and Spanish, to help create a database and let us know what their needs are. Just to elaborate on some of the accomplishments, since I've taken over, we've received 31 handicap applications. Out of those 31, 18 of them I've gotten approved, with the remainder of them were denied for various reasons, didn't meet the criteria or whatnot. Along with the 18 being denied, I've also gotten 4 removed that have been up there, whether they didn't meet the criteria, the people who no longer needed them. So that's a process that I'm trying to do, go through and weed those out, because parking is a premium in the city. So we've been trying to do that. Also, we've created the office. We have office hours, thanks to the Veterans Services Office. I'm in there on Fridays. We started that last September, and we were able to field 120 phone calls for residents and help get them some information and find out what they needed. But what I was finding that was happening is, since we only had the office hours on Fridays, some of them weren't leaving voicemails. The rest of the time I've been doing it from home. They weren't leaving voicemails, so what I had talked to 311 is to let it go to them so that they would get a live operator. And the live operator would then, if they could not answer the call, I gave them a bunch of the statistics of what they needed. They would forward that to me for a message. And what I'm looking to do next fiscal year is get a report from Viewpoint to see how many more calls are being fielded by them, so we can see exactly how many disabled residents we are reaching out to and getting information for. So it's a work in progress, and at least with the initial from January to September, we reached 120 live that I talked to personally. And out of the 120, I've also gotten 30 to 40 residents that have come into the office in that shorter period of time. So that's good, and it's a start. Some of the goals and objectives that I do have for the committee is to become a full-time, regularly staffed department within the city of Revere. It doesn't have to be me. It's just something that I think is a need in this community. Not only this community, most of the communities in this Commonwealth. Not only for the disabled elderly residents, but we do have a very large disabled young adults in this community that do need somebody out there to where to go. The families need somewhere to go for information and programs. One of the objectives that I do have is to be able to provide the necessary time and resources to be able to serve all the residents in Revere. The personalized city services, uphold professional and ethical standards, embrace technology, value diversity. One of my pet peeves that I'd love to see happen in this community is between the Commission on Disabilities and the Veterans Services Department, is that both of these departments, I feel, should be together in one location. We both service almost the same individuals. And I'm not sure why this has never been done. I don't know if it's being done in other communities, but I think it would be part and parcel to have both of these departments together. Not only to utilize the space, we'd be able to share information, share facilities. We'd be able to also bring back the equipment loan program. As of right now, what I'm doing is I facilitate everyone to the Masons in Woburn to get equipment, which is great. And then when I know of somebody that has equipment, I try and match them with someone because of the limitations of space to store equipment, and we don't want to take up a lot of the space for it. Another goal that I have is to try and establish receiving the funds from the handicap violations that we take in. And I did some research on this. And first thing we would have to do is establish us being an 8J, and then through the city council. And then once we did that, we could then go and become a 22G. And I got some preliminary numbers from the parking department for our fiscal year 2017. They collected they issued fines for $51,615. Out of that $51,615, they collected $52,235. $6,000 of it was in fines, and there's still an outstanding $5,680 out there for fiscal year 2017. And then in fiscal year 2018, as of 5/25/2018, they issued $34,250 in handicap violations, whereas penalties out of that was $4,500, and they've collected $30,575, and so there's still an $8,200 outstanding. So that money, if we were able to establish that, that could help to do some programs for the disabled residents, and also would help when we go for funding through the state, because they also want to see you be able to put some of your matching funds when you're applying for state and federal grants, whereas since we don't have money in our own coffers, there isn't that money to show. Not that they look negatively if you don't, but it looks better when you have some of your own matching funds, because I've applied for 2 grants so far, and both grants I was shot down. Not necessarily saying they didn't have shovel in the ground, but one of the big funding is because I wanted to be able to do an overall assessment of all the city buildings to see the handicap accessibility, to make sure it's code enforcement and whatnot.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Any counselors have questions pertaining to the Commission on Disabilities? Council McKenna.
Ralph, I think you're doing a wonderful job. Keep it up. It's great that we started this again, and just want to say that I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Council Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ralph, I agree with my Councilor McKenna. You've done an outstanding job since you took this over, and you've been a great help to us ward councilors. You seem to have much more success than we do. But all I can say is keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Patch. Any other Council Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ralph, I want to commend you on a very comprehensive program you've laid out there. And I just have one. You mentioned sort of coexisting with the Veteran Services Department. And I know that certain portion of the benefits that they allocate come from the Commonwealth, and I'm just wondering if that might work with yourself.
Well, it wouldn't be for financial, more financial. It would be more of location and stability, that we're in the same location, because there are disabled veterans that I would be able to help with, and it's just, since I've been in there, coverage-wise, I think it would make more sense, and we'd be able to, I'd be able to help with the wheelchair equipment program and whatnot, because I will have some residents that are in need of that, and it's almost like it's an overlap now that we're in 2 different locations for some of that stuff. I just think it makes more sense that we're in the same location, not under the same umbrella as one department, but in the same facility.
I agree 100%, and I know the facility over there now is sort of cramped, and
Right.
we probably have to
And they
start
desperately need a new facility.
looking at a larger area for
Right.
it to complement both departments.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council. Any other councilors? I just have one question, and I really didn't have any questions before you started speaking, but now I have a question. Where you're working hand in hand with the Veterans Affairs Office, how many, do you have any estimate of how many disabled veterans in Revere that we have that would require services from the city?
That would probably be a better question for Mark, because he does keep all that criteria. That's one reason why I have started the survey, and I have a presentation from my for my meeting after this. I've received only 29 of them back, so I'm going to be reaching out to the paper and Revere TV to get it out. All those have been inputted into a graph now, and I have a whole graph presentation for my commission that breaks it down as to what type of disabilities, what they are, and if they are disabled veterans, there's a place for them to check off and that. But it's going to be a way that the community is going to have to let us know and share that information with us. But that's another reason why if both of these departments were together, we'd be able to share the information in one location instead of everything being in two different locations.
Okay, fair enough. Any further questions for Mr. DeChico? Well, again, thank you very much for your service. Budget-wise, I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, I requested a little bit more because of.
Yeah, we're not going to be over-analyzing your departmental budget here tonight.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
thank you very much. We appreciate you being here tonight to talk about your goals and objectives and prior accomplishments, and wish you well in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up will be Consumer Affairs, Janine, and for the council, that would be page, one second here, section 2, 121 to 123. Good afternoon, Janine.
Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Good.
Janine, if you want, you can tell, it's entirely up to you. I know we just got this here today, so you don't need to go through it. If you just want to hit some of the high points of what your department basically does and the type of work that you do, and I think it bears noting under your FY18 accomplishments, the number of complaints and the amount of money that you've been able to return to Revere families. So if you want to just talk about that real quick, and then
okay.
we'll go into your budget.
Yep, we opened 221 complaints, and we closed 208, and we returned $74,946.67 back to the consumers, so we were pretty proud of that. Let's see, set up information, and that's about it. That's all we do. I mean, we do have a lot of information that we give out, and that's about it.
Okay.
That's,
Going into salaries, it really doesn't look like
no changes, really.
any changes whatsoever. Any councilors, members of the committee? Council Morbido, Council Patch, you have anything for Janine? Council McKenna, you have any questions? Council Powers?
No question. She does a great job down there.
Yeah, it's hard to argue when you're returning more money to Revere families than your entire budget here. There's again, you fall into that same type of category as many of the other department heads have before you, and there's very little room. Some of the bigger items that we're going to be looking at will take place at future meetings. You have, you're like a, I've often said you're like a one-armed paper hanger down there. I mean, you're handling a couple hundred complaints down there, virtually on your own, and you've got some volunteer help and so on, but you do a really good job. I've got very positive feedback when I've talked to people that have had the need to call your department. The feedback that I've received has been tremendous.
Thank you.
And so you should be very proud of that.
I am.
And, want to thank you for your service. And if there's no further questions from my colleagues here, I want to thank you for appearing this afternoon, and
Okay.
good luck going forward.
I thank you.
All right, Janine. Thank you very much. Moving right along, I see Steve Fielding here with Elder Affairs. Steve, you want to come forward and tell us what's going on? For the council, Elder Affairs would be Section 2, 112 to 114. Steve, you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on down the senior center?
Yeah, I think that my mission statement in a nutshell is to provide the independence of seniors within the city of Revere in advocating for the services, programs, and activities to meet any needs they may have, provide healthy meals, transportation, low-cost transportation, and to ensure that they're welcomed at the senior center in a very positive, safe, fun environment, and that we try to enrich their quality of life. And I think that we accomplish that in many ways. I ask if you could look at your my 2018 accomplishments for your own knowledge so that we can spend time on the budget.
Okay, councilors, you can take a look at that either after or during the presentation pertaining to the actual numbers themselves. If we could go to page 112. Steve, you just want to go through that? Anything worth noting from your perspective?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, as you can see, most of my budget for the city is for payroll expenditures, and the remaining amount is a result of small needs such as bus rentals and office supplies. Because of the current situation with my revolving account, that will subsidize programs that were previously covered under the elder programs line item. I think that I just want to state for a fact that this budget is supplemented by 3 different grants that I received. One is the state formula grant that every Massachusetts city and town council on aging receives based on the senior population of the latest census. So that helps tremendously to pay a lot of bills and to provide services, do repairs and that type of thing. We also have a meals program reimbursable grant. Our seniors pay $1.50 per meal, and through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, we are given X number of dollars for each meal that we provide statistical information on, which helps pay for food inventories going forward for every month in the year. We also receive a grant from Mystic Valley Elder Services, our state agency access point. It's a very small grant. It's approximately $10,000, and what that does is supplement costs that are given to the salaries of the instructors that we hire.
Yes, first I'd like to go to members of the committee. Does Councilor Morabito or Councilor Patch have any questions? Councilor Morabito?
At first, my first concern was why was elder programs being cut? That was a $20,000 line item, but now I see why. Guess my question is regarding infrastructure and any building improvements. Was there any discussion with the mayor about improving any, fixing anything in the building? Because I didn't see anything under capital improvement.
Well, if you look at the accomplishments, one of the major issues that we had this year was the retaining wall in the front facade of the building, along with the stairs and the railing and the cement that surrounded it. And that certainly had to be repaired because of water damage over the years and in need of repair. And that was something that was really a safety issue, and that was accomplished. In regard to other infrastructure issues outside of cosmetic type things that we've done internally, they are being addressed. Things such as City Hall experiences or other departments and other buildings, you know, sometimes sewage, sometimes water, mold, and just wear and tear on, you know, the exterior. So those things are being addressed currently through the administration and with the help of the DPW, the Water Department, and the Engineering Department.
Are there any anticipated maintenance that was forecasted for the budget for 2019?
Sure, if I may. Before I started, just about when I started, I believe you got a capital improvement plan that was put together that gave a 5-year forecast of what some of the capital needs of the city. And since I've started, you know, I've been getting a little more intimate with all departments and their needs, and what I hope to do as we evolve this budget process, and it'll be my second year next year, is the idea would be to kind of take that capital budget and bring it before you as the first budget, because things that are proposed in that budget, such as the needs of the public buildings and such, it would be nice to have that presented and gone over with the council to find out what they support, and then that actually helps us build the operating budget. So we did recognize that, there's a need for the parking lot to be repaired, and there's a new shuttle van that's being proposed to be replaced. I do know that we are working with the Elder Affairs and the Senior Center to make some improvements, but to answer your question, I hope that the process will be a little more involved and systematic, whereby we'll bring capital first, and then, of course, if there's bond authorizations for capital projects, those will be built into the operating budgets for the debt service, et cetera. So going forward, I hope to have better answers on some of these capital needs, but as they come up, we're certainly addressing them either with current dollars, grant dollars, or at least identifying them for future years of the capital plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wondering, how many employees do you have working for you?
We have 6 full-time employees,
Okay.
and we have 7 part-time that are paid through different sources. They're all part-time.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Councilor McKenna. Councilor Patch.
Steve, first I want to compliment you and your entire staff for, including your volunteers. You do an outstanding job there in your staff. But I do have a question on your capital. I see here that did you get a van donated by Catawba Ambulance?
We did. We lost one van that was donated several years back, and Cataldo Ambulance stepped up and gave us a 2008 5-passenger van, free of charge, and that is served a purpose. But because of the spike in the number of transportation needs that we have, both to and from the center and outside appointments, medical facilities and stuff, we really need another van, and I'm working with Richard to utilize some funds that we have to purchase another new van. And I think my discussions with our contractors through the state went well. I just actually met with a representative of MHQ and the people they contract out for to actually build a new van. You don't just buy a van, go online. You have to build it according to your needs and what the requirements are for the state, what the CDL requirements are or are not. And I'm in the process of working with somebody through the state now.
So I'm sorry. Then what is the holdup of the requiring this?
I'm sorry?
What is the holdup in getting this van?
Well, first of all, you have to use a contractor from the state, and you use a state user guide list to do that. And I was just given approval for this approximately a month ago. Then you meet with the contractor, who sets up a meeting with the actual bus company that builds the van, and then you go through a number of steps to solicit your needs to him. And I did that on Monday, and I will be getting an itemization of what each line item costs. They actually build the vans that you see for GLSS or the PACE program or whatever. They actually are hybrid vans that they use. They build a generic chassis, and then they utilize Ford products such as the motor and the body, and they kind of meld it together according to your needs. And I'm currently looking at a 15-passenger van plus a driver, which will also have a lift and double seats in the back, so that should you need a wheelchair, you will have access to strap it in, and it'll work. It'll go a long way.
Yeah.
From the time you actually order the van and they start to build it, it can take 60 to 90 days. So I'm anticipating, should everything go smooth, by September.
Well, I'm sure when it comes before the council, I don't think you'll have any problem okaying the
And if it
money
doesn't,
for
I'm
that
sure you'll
van.
get calls.
Thank you for your, thanks again.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if this question should go to yourself or the auditor, maybe to both. As you know, I had a meeting down at the senior center about 6 weeks ago with the board, and one of their concerns was, and I think it's a very valid concern, was the condition of the parking lot and the fact that it was in disrepair and not only needed to be repaired, but also restriped.
Right.
Can you tell me now, okay, 'cause I'm looking here, there was a $20,000 request, and that was eliminated.
If I may, Counselor, that parking lot is going to be paved. It's just, the money doesn't have to come from a general fund appropriation. We do have funds available, and I'm assuming you're talking about the parking lot that's adjacent to the senior center. That is being,
Exactly.
that's being priced out, and the funds are available, so it's just, it's in the process now, and you should see that paved.
And that will be done in this construction year? Is that-
It should be done very soon, yeah. They've already been tasked with getting
That
the
was a
cost
very,
of that.
that was a very valid concern of the people I met with
Yeah,
down there.
it's been heard, and we're on it.
Thank you very much.
Point
Thank
of
you.
Could I
information.
add something to that?
Oh, go ahead.
In regard to you, actually. Councilor McKenna put through a motion a while back to address not only the parking lot, but the driveway condition, okay?
Yeah, I'm talking about the whole thing.
The whole
I was
thing.
down there, I had a meeting with them
Right,
about 6
right.
weeks ago.
Since that meeting, because of Councilor McKenna's motion, the DPW and the water department came down because there was a catch basin that was probably gonna drop,
Sinking, okay.
sink. And it was rectified almost immediately after her motion went through. So that is only the first part, and her motion was also to work with the administration on correcting the parking lot and the driveway that's remaining. Right? Yeah.
As
Thank
long
you.
as it,
Thank you very-
as long as it gets done, that's my main concern.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no other councilors that have questions, Steve, again, I just want to say what a great job that you do. As you know, I spend some significant time down there visiting with the members that utilize the senior center. I'd like to see more people get involved. It looks like, there has been a significant increase in the amount of money that we're spending on programming, which is great. I really want to see a vibrant senior center. It always troubles me when I hear people say, oh, I go to the Saugus Senior Center, or I go to another senior center. There's no reason why I feel as though our own seniors shouldn't be able to or want to use their own senior center here. So, it's always a department that I think has been underfunded. As you know, there's some capital improvements that we just talked about here tonight. There's other capital improvements that weren't talked about that we know need to get done. So, I think that's something that we need to really show a commitment to going forward. And again, as I alluded to early on tonight, the city council can be of no help to you with that. We can only cut the budget, which I don't think you'll have one councilor up here that's interested in cutting anything from elder affairs. You managed to put on some really good events and provide a good quality of life for those seniors that have chosen to use the senior center. So I just want to compliment you and your staff and your volunteers, the cooks down there. I mean, it's always great to see everybody when I go down there. So I want to thank you for your service. And do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, the only thing is I want to just point out that our population of seniors that do utilize the senior center is shifting a little bit. And we have younger versus older, not versus, but and older, younger and older seniors. And a lot of people take advantage of all the health and exercise classes because they're more mobile and they have other activities in their life, so they're not of a different generation that may come and just relax, get out of their house, can't drive, we shuttle them there. It provides, companionship, socialization, et cetera. So that seems to be the case across the state anyway, and most senior centers directors will tell you the same thing. So there seems to be a little bit of a shift. If people are watching out there, I'm going to solicit the senior center right now. If people are watching TV and want to come down to the senior center, we'll give you personalized tours, we'll take you around, we'll give you a cup of coffee, and we'll talk to you about how advantage it can be for you. So,
And that commercial was sponsored by the Revere City Council
Absolutely.
for Elder Affairs, so
all right, thank you.
that's great. All right, Steve, thank you again, and thanks to everybody down there that makes it happen down there, so
Thank you.
much appreciated. Next up is Veterans Affairs.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. Mark Silvestri, Veteran Affairs. Council, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read over a few of our accomplishments. We've had some pretty big ones over the last year, and Revere as a whole, for veterans. As you can see in our 218 accomplishments, we provided over $600,143 in Chapter 115 benefits to veterans and their families. In 2017, we increased VA compensation by 22%, coming into the city to a total of $548,965. That's monthly. That brought us to 12th ranked in the state of Massachusetts. Actually happy to announce that since then, currently in 2018, we've raised that number to a total of $694,978,000, and a total of 576 disabled veterans. If we have as the last census, 1,043 veterans have answered the last census. We have 576 disabled veterans within the city. A big factor here is the unique veterans, which is a veteran that's not compensated through his disability of service. More or less, it's a financial finding that the VA finds, in which I'm proud to announce that 2016 in Revere, we had 47 veterans collecting $34,794 in a month. So that's times 12, obviously. 2017, we almost doubled that number to 76 veterans getting pensions, $68,913 a month coming in. So we've done significant strides there. And the way that affects, because a lot of people don't understand city versus federal, the way that affects our numbers is Chapter 115. July, for instance, of 2016, we gave a total of $63,859 out. In 17, it was $64,112. 2018, we've gotten that number down to $48,085. And that's not giving less vets in our city funds. It's giving them more federal funded pensions and disabilities, and getting them to where they belong. Chapter 115, as you know, is a short-term program, unless it's an elderly veteran, and we've been doing some great things there. Also, in the housing area for veterans, we've been working in correlation with Revere Housing Authority. And in 2016, from 1/1/16 to 12/31/16, there was a total of 7 veterans housed in Revere Housing Authority. From 1/1/17 to 12/31/17, we housed 20 veterans in Revere Housing Authority. From 12/31/17 to current, we've housed 12. And we are sending an approximate number of 25 veterans will be housed by Revere Housing Authority by the year of 2018. And then also we have 8 other veterans that we've been able to house through them coming into the office, asking where to find housing, if there's a realtor, do we know anyone, and setting them up with through them means. And the last thing I'll go over here, which I'm extremely proud of, not many cities in the state are able to do this, and we were able to pull together both the Veteran Service, the Revere Housing Authority, the SUD office we all combined our thoughts, our ideas. We put it on paper and we put it to the Bedford VA for HUD-VASH vouchers. I'm proud to announce that as of April 1st, 2018, we were issued 5 HUD-VASH vouchers for veterans in the amount of $56,235. So those would be equivalent to a Section 8 voucher, but for veterans. So we're doing some tremendous things in veteran services. The city's doing some tremendous things for veterans. The council has been supportive. The administration, I can say nothing but great things. And if you have any questions over the budget or anything I can answer, I'd be glad to. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you. Good work. Any members of the committee have questions for the commissioner? Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, first of all, I want to thank you for your service, and you have continued, since you have received this job, to do tremendous work. So I just want to give you, I think you deserve that compliment. And I have no question on the budget, but I hope you get more money, that's all.
Thank you, Council.
Any other councilors? Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to thank you for serving our country as a vet, being a vet, and all you do for our vets. I have a couple of questions on a few line items. I noticed that there was no funds allocated for fiscal year 2019 for sick leave. Is that something in the past that looked it has been allocated?
Yeah. You might recall at the last council meeting, we asked the body to accept a stabilization fund for sick. It's not a revolving fund. It would be a trust account, and actually the interest in the dollars would stay with that. So as opposed to trying to fund a variable cost in every budget, tying up those dollars, we made one.
So only the specific departments that you mentioned?
Every department that used to have a sick leave is out of there.
Well, some of them I've noticed sick leave. I just
I
got this
don't-
budget last night, so I can't refer.
If you see any
right
sick
now.
leave buyback, it's an error, but I believe that it's all been stripped out and there's an appropriation.
I'll let you know, and I'll get back to you.
Please do.
Also, one other thing that I've noticed is special events increased. Is there more events occurring, or just the coffee with the veterans is?
No, we're doing, I'd like to run more coffee events for the vets. Also, I'd like to be able to do more on the events we have. Right now, we're relying a lot on the posts to help with our events. And as we all know, the posts are aging, the members are aging. They're not able to do as much as they could in the past. I'd like to bring back the Veterans Council. I'd like to bring back a Veterans Day event that's not hosted by an outside veterans organization, but a city held event as well. There are many things in here that, for instance, the tents for Memorial Day, the administration's kindly enough to get those for us because we wouldn't be able to fit those in our budget. Now, by raising that, we'll be able to fit stuff like that into our budget.
Excellent. As you know, I put forward a motion that would allow veterans to volunteer their time working for the city, volunteering their time with the city in exchange for a tax abatement. I know the mayor approved it. Maybe Mr. Fisquet can answer this. Is there any funds allocated for that? How is it, is that going to be an implemented program in 2019?
As far as an abatement to the real estate taxes,
Yes.
I'm not totally able to answer that question. I don't have the answer. I'm not sure if there's a particular law that allows for that, but I know that we have increased our overlay for abatements for seniors, but I'm not sure if that also includes the veterans, so I'd have to get back to you and make sure I have the right answer for you.
So you're probably not brushed up to speed, but the city council adopted a law that was passed by the state.
If I could.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Rick. Yes, so the five series is what you're insinuating. So the council passed it, the administration and the mayor approved it. Now it comes down to us sitting down and crunching some numbers, seeing who's allocated. Right now we have 157 veterans that get a tax break in the city of $450. We have 57 veterans in the city that get a tax break of over $1,000. So we, like I gave you a number in the census, we have 1,043 veterans. We have over 500 that get compensation through the VA. We have over 120 that get compensation through our office. So we have a lot of things to weigh here. How many of these jobs are we going to offer? Are we going to do it by lottery? We can't just say, yeah, we passed it, the mayor approved it, and what's it going to be? We got to sit down, and I've actually sent out an email a few times, and we got to bang some numbers and really figure a way to make this thing work.
My concern, I just wanted to know if there was any discussion on it, but I commend you on your accomplishments as the head of the Veterans Department, and I'm very impressed with your vast knowledge with the numbers and the data. So thank you for all that information.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Councilor.
Councilors, I just want to remind you, it's about 20 minutes to 7. We got 20 minutes left, so if we could limit our questions to the numbers here, some brief comments and back and forth. We don't, you know, out of respect for the other department heads that are here, I want to have everybody out of here by 7 o'clock. So, you know, if we could just like stick to the budget and talk about what we have in front of us, that would be great. Council McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, Mark, you've put Revere on the map with the veterans, the Revere veterans, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Anyone else? Any other councilors? Thank you for your service first, Commissioner Silvestri. I don't see anything here that jumps out at me right away. As I alluded to earlier, we just got the budget today, but you know, it's only a three-page budget. I don't think, and I don't mean to speak for everybody up here, but I don't think anybody's too interested in cutting, you know, benefits from veterans. If anything, the more we can do for people who served our country, the more that I think we'd like it. So thank you again for your service. And if there's no further questions, you're
Thank you.
all set.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Auditor Fisquet. This was a pleasure, the process, actually.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We now move on to the library. And the library is going to be pages 124 to 127 in section 2. Yes.
Oh, sorry. I want to thank the council for having me. I just wanted to say the mission of the library is to foster the intellectual and cultural life of the community in Revere by providing quality literature, media, programming, and access to technology for residents of all ages. We've had at least 96 programs for children attended by 1,548. That was the total attendance of those programs, I should say. We've had 18,660 computer sessions, login sessions for our computers. Patrons have borrowed 545 audiobooks, 29,653 books, and 2,126 videos. We have a total of 24,117 library card holders. Some of our accomplishments, we've thankfully had a long-running sewage problem fixed. We've improved our technology. We've gotten our fax line fixed, and we installed a smart board for use in children's programs. We've updated the computers in the children's room. We subscribe to magazines in foreign languages to reflect the diversity of the community of Revere. We've continued our senior center book club with a wide range of genres represented. And we've improved and professionalized library services by adding new staff members with diverse skills and background. Just a brief description of the budget, just a little background. The state requires a municipal appropriation requirement that if not met, we would have to appeal for a waiver to be certified. And if the library is not certified, then the residents wouldn't have access to all of the other libraries that they currently do. Residents have to ask each library case by case if they could borrow one of their books. We had to appeal for a waiver once, and the state understood that we'd had a terrible winter and a tornado, so they granted us a waiver. But it is a pretty rigorous standard that they hold to make sure the libraries are adequately funded. I, as director, try to adhere to that number because I know it goes up every year. And 12% of that budget has to be spent on library materials. And this building was built in 1902 for a population that is a quarter the size of it is now, and you can only cram so many books in there. Thank God for online resources. So this budget is the minimum that I can't really see any areas to cut. If you look at some of the line items, the utilities and telephone, building maintenance and repair, those have gone to zero. And that's because we, as part of being certified for the state, we get state aid every year. And we've built up some funds where we can pay for those out of that money. So utilities will come out of the state aid grant, office supplies, and also the revolving fund. When people pay for a copy or a printout or a library fine, that goes into a revolving fund that covers most of our office supplies and other expenses. So by eliminating those, it is an effort to keep the budget to the minimum that it needs to be.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, Councilor Morbido or Councilor Patch, any questions for Kevin? Councilor Morbido, Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a motion, it was brought to my attention, I know this is a funny question, but it was brought to my attention that your bathroom in the library was broken. Was that fixed?
Yes, that's the plumbing problem I alluded to. It has been finally fixed. It was a process. They had to put a camera down there to see. They thought there were roots. They had to put a camera down to show there were no roots, but there's a little crack, and they had to seal it from the inside, and they had to wait for the weather to be warm enough. They did it in, I think it was January. So, yes, that has been fixed. Things are much better.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, I noticed last week that there's a fence in the back of your building. Can you anticipate when that will be fixed? And I just don't, I think once you leave something broken for a long period of time, something else gets broken. And I'd like to see that fixed as soon as possible.
It's only one pole, so it shouldn't be much. Is when the new budget is released, I'll be happy to reach out to the vendor and get a quote. It shouldn't take long at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't really have any questions. The only question that I have is it looks like the overall budget from FY17, the actual budget from 496 went up in 18 to 587. Looks like there might have been a new position. I'm just curious, was something backfilled or was...
Yeah, so there was a new position last year, the multilingual children's librarian, and also the administrative marketing assistant. They were filled by people who already worked in the library. But there was some miscommunication with my spreadsheet to the mayor's office, and last year when I presented the budget, I wasn't actually presenting what was on paper. I was presenting what I thought I had submitted. So I asked Treasurer George Anzoni to come before the council again to fill in the budget to meet the state requirement. And that's what that amount was.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I just again want to thank you. You know, the library has long been talked about, and actually I get yet another department that I hear good things about. More and more people are utilizing the library. In fact, there's a lot of communities out there where they use their library as kind of their central go-to place, and it would be great someday to get Revere in that position. But that's going to take some work. It's going to certainly take some money. And I know that we've talked about it in the past, which is one of the reasons why I'm so sensitive to spending on capital projects. Like, you know, we've got some new construction proposals that the council has entertained, but if we can save some money here and some money there, it would be great, because I know that the state, at least they used to, I don't know, you'd know more than I do right now, used to have some grant programs providing the city put up some money. So it would be great to someday come up with a plan to expand that library and expand the services that we're able to provide our residents. So, but I know under the circumstances, you and your staff are doing a tremendous job, so I want to thank you for that. And if there's no further questions from the council, Kevin, I just want to thank you again. Appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your patience. I know it's long sitting through other department heads going through their budgets and listening to us. So
I appreciate all of your support over the years from you and from all the councilors.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Next up is the Director of Parks and Recreation. And I'll get that page number for you right now. Pages 128 to 130, Section 2.
Good evening, everybody. Michael Hinojosa, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Go right ahead.
All right, I'm just going to quickly read my mission statement. We won't have to get into it, but it's to enhance the quality of life for all citizens of the city of Revere by offering active recreational, educational, cultural programming services for all age groups, while providing facilities that are safe, accessible, and aesthetically pleasing to the entire community. So I think we do that every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any questions pertaining to the budget for Michael? Anybody? Councilor Powers? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Patch, then Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions on the budget, but I just want to give Michael my thanks for all the programs and events down in my ward, at the Whale and Susan B. Anthony School, plus throughout the whole city. You're a very busy guy, you and your crew. You got
Thank you. We try.
Good staff, and I just, anytime you need any help, we're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Patch. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, I just have basically one question, but there's two parts to it. First of all, Bob Hass and myself started the summer concert series probably 20 years ago over at the Legion building, and I'd like to know if that's going to continue this year. And that's question number one. And question number two is, what are we planning for events down on the boulevard this year?
So yes, the answer to question one is we have a full slate of concert series. I think we have seven Sundays scheduled.
Yep.
And yes, we have plenty of things going on down the beach. We will staff the Rhinestone Bandstand again during the summer with summer staff. They'll have volleyball, can jam, spike ball going on every day. We have sea kayaking, paddle boarding going on down there. I'll help with the bocce tournament.
How about the movie nights and those things there down near the northern end of the beach, the Jack Satter House and that area down there?
We have 8 movie nights scheduled, as usual, Thursday nights, 6 Thursday nights, and then 2 weekend nights. We're calling them date nights, so.
That's good to hear. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Council. Any other councilors have any questions for Michael? Michael, the only question that I have, is as I look at the FY18 budget of $444,000, and I look through third quarter of 2018, we spent almost $490,000, which means that number presumably is going to go up by the end of FY18, correct? I mean, I'm just curious, have we made any, I can't recall, maybe the auditor can refresh my memory, if we made any transfers or, because I know you've done a tremendous job down there in terms of generating revenues, so I don't know if maybe the revenues are helping offset the number that was shown in the budget, or how the,
Sure, I'd be happy to answer. Yeah, the way the accounting system's set up, a lot of the charges are in the general fund appropriation, and then we journal entry those out and move them to the respective grant funds or revolving funds of the city to offset the cost. So I would prefer to have charges directly to the grants and the funds themselves, but past practice was to charge them general fund and then make some transfers. So we're in the process right now of, we just had our cutoff of purchase orders and requisitions, and looking at the budgets, and we're getting ready to make some transfers and then possibly come before the council for some cleanup work to close the ledger. So just some accounting entries we need to be made to clean that up.
Thank you. Revenue-wise, how is the department doing? Are you doing reasonably well? I know that revenues have increased over the last couple of years, over the last several years, actually.
They continue to increase every year.
Fantastic.
But yes. Yep.
Which it's not only good for what the city can do with respect to services and programming, but it's good to know that people are taking advantage of it and using it. That's, of course, the goal. You want people, similar to the library, similar to the senior center, you want people to utilize these resources. That's why we have them as a community. So it's good to know that there's people that are actually, making good use out of it. And I know the programming just continues to increase, and that's good news as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to thank you for that. Other than that discrepancy, and I'm sure we'll get into that as time moves along, but the budget itself looks like, in terms of the mayor's recommendation, it's gone up a little bit, the FY18 budget for the rec programs for FY18 was 130, and the mayor's recommending 75. Do you know?
Yep.
I'm sorry. If I may, what we were able to do with the help of the council is we presented a couple of council orders to appropriate money for the Sandcastle Festival and the Columbus Day Parade.
So
once
you
those
pulled that money out of this budget. See, I kind of wish my only request. So I'm assuming in last year's budget, and of course you didn't prepare it, but in last year's budget, was Sandcastles in your budget last year?
Correct.
Okay, so it would be good to at least see that in there, so we can see that. Oh yeah, by the way, they pulled out 50,000 or whatever was budgeted for. Just so we knew. I'm glad you're here to answer it, but what I'm saying is,
No, absolutely. That's why I came in, and we also did try to footnote it in the budget itself. And I will just add that because of those appropriations, we were actually able to increase actually the portion of the budget that is probably most related to the recreational department's programs by 20,000. So the good news is that we were able to get free cash certified and appropriated for some of these events like the Columbus Day Parade and Revere Beach Sandcastle event. And by doing that, we were able to increase programming by $20,000. So we like to think of that as a win-win. But again, understanding that some of this stuff may be different than in the past, certainly here to help, as long as you don't mind me jumping in and trying to explain a little bit about the mechanics of what we've done.
yeah, and I'm actually seeing that here under the non-payroll expenditures where it is footnoted. So okay, we got that down. So, Michael, do you have anything further for us?
No, we're doing pretty good down at the rec center. You know, I won't keep us, I know we've been here a long time and other people are waiting, but we've had another successful year, as you guys know. 2019 is even bigger and better. We'll just continue to work hard and get at it.
Well, you know, there's nothing that I like more when I see families participating in the various activities that your department provides, and that really is what makes our community. So I want to thank you and your staff for all you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. Moving right along, and I believe this may be our last, will be the retirement board. How are you?
Good. Sandra Zappelin, Administrator of the Retirement Board.
Yep, I just want to get us on track here. It would be pages 136 to 138 under Section 2. Sandra, it's all yours.
You know, we did spell out some accomplishments and some things we wanted to do. One of the big things we did over the last year is introduce the employee self-service module. That's similar to if you have an account of Fidelity, you can go on, you can see what you have, you can make projections, things like that. So the board did implement this to give active employees more information about their retirement, to allow them to better, you know, be an active participant in their retirement rather than just have the money taken out each week from their pay, and then, you know, when they turn a certain age, they show up at the office and say, you know, what happened to all that money? We want them to be active participants in planning their retirement. So the board did spend money to establish the employee self-service portal, and together with other projects such as seminars, retirement seminars, and changes to the website, we are trying to increase both active employees and retirees' interest and involvement in the retirement system.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. Are there any questions from councilors for Sandra while he's here? Any questions? Councilors, anybody? If I could just go, and there's no page number, it looks like it might, well, it would be under your mission statement, accomplishments, and so on. Talks about new members, new retirees, FY16, FY17, FY18. Do you have the same page that I'm looking at, just so I know? So what would new members mean? What does new retirees mean? I mean, sounds like I might know what it is, but I want to hear from you what it is.
New members are new employees eligible to join the retirement system. So those would generally be full-time or almost full-time employees who join the retirement system. New retirees are obviously people who have retired, you know, and begun receiving their retirement allowance.
So those are people, okay, so these people that are retiring, for example, 16 in FY16, 18 in FY17, 26 in FY18, and you predict another 18 to 26 people retiring in FY19. Am I reading that correctly?
You are reading it correctly.
Okay. In terms of, I know I asked this question to George Anzoni was here, our Director of Finance. I think it's 2030 or somewhere out there. When will we be fully funded for our retirement?
I think it's currently scheduled around 2026 to 2027. Is it 2033?
I'm pretty sure it's 2033. I just checked that figure. We should be fully funded.
2033?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have to be fully funded by 2040 under state.
Yeah, the statutory
Or mandated,
the
right?
statutory requirement is 2040. 2033, we start just to pay the normal costs, and we've caught up with the accrued liability by that point, based upon the current actuarial report.
Okay, and how are we doing investment-wise?
I mean, all our money's in the PRIT system, and the PRIT had a great year. I think they were up 17% last year as the whole stock market went up. So
So that could have an impact on fully funding by 2033, maybe bringing it down.
Oh, yeah,
a
of
bit.
course. I mean, actuarial, I think, are we at 7.75%, I believe, as an
Yeah,
assumption?
7.6.
So our assumption rate of return is 7.75%. So, of course, when you have a 17%, that reflects well. But most systems, when they do the actuarial report, they'll do a smoothing. So they won't take all the benefits of that one good year. They'll take 20% of that and 20% of the previous 4 years, and they smooth that so you don't have a bunch of
Much
spikes.
fluctuation,
Yeah, it kind of
right.
normalizes the figures, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. No new employees down there, it doesn't look like.
No.
So, I don't know, does, any questions? One question from Councilor Morabito?
What is the unfunded pension liability rate?
Off the top of my head, I don't have it. I believe I was just looking at the report from PARAC that just came out. We're about 56% funded, but I don't have the exact dollar amount. It's a bit frightening. It's probably in the $100 million range, but that's pretty typical of most retirement systems, but I can certainly follow up and get you that number.
And can you forward me that information once you retrieve it?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much. No other, Councilor Powers?
I just have a statement to make. I'd like to thank all of the department heads who were here this evening making their presentations and justifying their budget, and also the auditor for a very comprehensive and complete presentation this evening, which I'm sure will continue down the road. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councilor Powers. I don't believe we have any other questions for you, Sandra. Thank you very much for providing the oversight for so many retirees and potential retirees. Of course, that's important to so many people, so we appreciate your service, and keep up the good work. And with that,
If you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I did just receive communication. I know you had the school department on here. I believe they're tied up in negotiations. I got a message, so I just wanted to at least give the council here an update on the reason why you don't see anybody from the school here.
well, thank you very much. As I perused the chamber, I didn't see anybody here from the school department, so, and I didn't think you wanted to step in and take over for them, so, you know, I was just gonna kind of carry them over, but, you know, I just want to, again, echo the sentiments of Councilor Powers and thank all the department heads that were so patient here today. This is a process that the city goes through. We have to do our due diligence and, you know, making sure that, you know, the administrative branch of government, the executive branch is lining up with what the city council wants and what we feel as though is best for the taxpayers. So this process is a very worthy one, and it's a necessary one. And our next meeting, for anybody that's interested in attending, this is open to the public for those people who would want to sit here for a couple hours and listen to testimony from department heads, will be on Wednesday, June 20th at 5 p.m. If there's no further business from the committee and those members present, I again want to thank my colleagues that are here, Councilor McKenna, Councilor Morabito, Councilor Patch, and Councilor Powers, who brought their knowledge and their commitment to city government here tonight. And again, I want to thank our city clerk, Ashley Melnick, our auditor, Rich Fiscay, for being here. And would also like to recognize Rick Frenny, who came in late, member of our Commission on Disabilities, and thank him and his department, all the department heads that were here. If there's no further business, this will conclude our Ways and Means Committee meeting for June 12, 2018.
Check one. I only have eyes. Yes. You want to hear a joke about plants? Did you...
Good evening. Welcome to the June 12th Commission on Disabilities meeting. Sorry for the late start time tonight. We had to accommodate the Ways and Means meetings. If we could all please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start, I would just like to ask for a moment of silence for Grace Sinella, who was laid to rest yesterday, the late wife of school committee man Fred Sinella. So if we could all please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Hearts go out to Fred Sinella and his family. I'll take a roll call of the members. Vice Chair Rick Frenny.
Present.
Committee Member Robert Bent.
Present.
Committee Woman Enza Goodwin.
Present.
Committeewoman Michelle DeBellis is absent. She let us know. And Committee Member Paul Mazzoni is absent. And Committee Member David Hesse is absent. Okay, the first item on the agenda is going to be very brief. It's just item 1 was the CODA, Commission on Disabilities Alliance monthly conference call meeting on Wednesday, June 6th. Just to keep everybody in the loop, the items on the agenda included continued discussion from last month's call regarding wanting us to have strong support from Senate Bill 1379 and House Bill 2498, which is an act relative to the Architectural Access Board. It would align our state access regulations of architectural access boards with federal architectural regulations of the American with Disabilities Act, aligning the AB with the ADA. It's imperative to ensure access to employment, housing, and equal civil and human rights for all people with disabilities across the Commonwealth. I'm sure I sent everyone communication on the emails that I had sent to our local state delegation, to State Representative Rosalie Vincent, State Senator Joe Boncore, State Senator Speaker of the House Robert DeLeo, and they were sending letters of support. Representative Rosalie Vincent had sent me a copy, and I believe I forwarded that off to you, and I showed you the letters that I had sent to everyone. If I neglected to send anyone a copy, please just let me know, and I'll forward that information on to you. I did it on behalf of everyone because it came right up after the meeting. They wanted us to send that out, so I did it on behalf of the Commission on Disabilities in Revere. If there's any questions or concerns on that. Okay, next item was the COD budget hearing with the Ways and Means Subcommittee, which happened before here, and I just briefly went over our Commission on Disabilities and briefly went through what our goals, some of our goals for the upcoming year and some of our accomplishments, which we did. And if I neglected to send that on to you, I will send that also. It's just the end of the year. It's just such a busy time of the year. But one thing that I wanted to highlight to everyone is a couple of the things that I want to try and get done with the city's administration along with the city council is try and be able to see if we can be adopted as an 8J that we found out from that meeting when we had the state Massachusetts Office on Disabilities here. And if we can adopt that, then we can file to be able to adopt a 22G. And what I found out in the meantime, I found out some monies for, and this would be in concerns for the handicap violations that are given out for the city of Revere. And I did find out the numbers for fiscal year 2017, what was issued for handicap violations was roughly $51,615 in handicap violations, in which an additional $6,400 was paid in fines and penalties for late payments. To date, as of May 25th, when I got the report from the parking department, out of that money for fiscal year 2017, $52,235 has been collected, which leaves $5,600 still outstanding balance. For our fiscal year 2018, as of May 25th, when the report was done, $34,280 was written in handicap parking violations, with $4,500 was collected in late penalty fees, and a total of $30,575 has now been collected, which left an outstanding balance as of right now of $8,250. So if we are able to get approval and go through that, that's some monies that would be able to put into a revolving account for the Commission on Disabilities that would be able to be used for programs and whatnot for people with disabilities, such as the town of Burlington. If we recall from the meeting, they were able to do their whole center gazebos and everything, all handicap accessible with monies that they received from that. So that's one of the things on my agenda to try and work on with the administration, council, and city council on for this upcoming fiscal year. So I will keep everybody up to date on that. But it's kind of a good amount of money. The other thing that I want to also possibly discuss is the fees on that, and I've already sent emails to the administration and the traffic commission to see if it can go on the agenda, because I know that they're going to be redoing, I believe, the parking tickets to make them more clearer. And a lot of the communities around here, it's more than the $100 handicap violation that Revere is issuing. So my feeling is if you're parking in a handicap spot and you do not have a handicap plate or a handicap placard, shame on you. You should pay. There are people with handicap placards in plates that cannot find these spots because there's people parking in them. So that's also goes part and parcel with trying to become HA and 22G for these funds. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns on that.
Yeah, just one quick question. Actually, the penalties for fiscal 2017, I see 51615. What were the penalties?
Issued.
That was issued, and what were the penalty fees on that?
The penalties so far that come in was $6,400. I can get you all that, and
Okay.
I'll send you the spreadsheet.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, I'll send the spreadsheet right to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Item number 3, I will turn that over to Enza, if she can read that for us.
So some updates for the month of June. We continue to have our drop-in stay play group on Monday nights at Revere Recreation at 6 o'clock, and we would like people to consider coming out and meeting other children and families. And contact information can be found on the Parks and Rec's website. We held our CPAC meeting back in May. It was our basic rights meeting. It reviewed the IEP process and gave parents insight into the process. We are holding our next meeting Wednesday, June 13th, which is tomorrow night at the Revere League for Special Needs at 6 o'clock. At that time, we will be holding elections for 4 key positions: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And we're hoping that we can get people to come out to that meeting. After the elections, we plan on holding a brief general meeting as well. And Revere CPAC, in collaboration with Revere Public Schools, is planning a summer calendar of events that will take place in conjunction with the extended school year program. And more information should be coming out later this month. I believe we'll have a flyer ready, so maybe, Ralph, that's something we can add to the website once that's available. And do you want me to go ahead and talk about the dance program that Michelle has? So one of our members, Michelle DeBellis, has organized a special needs children of all abilities dance movement summer program for ages 5 through 9. This amazing program will run 5 weeks every Wednesday from 3:30 to 4:15, beginning July 11th, and it will take place at the Dance Junction in Saugus. Pre-registration is required. Once the class is full, you will be placed on a waiting list and notified if a spot opens up. And again, Michelle DeBellis can be reached for any questions regarding that. And this is a nice little program that is being supported by Road to Revere. They are the ones that are handling the funding for this so that families have the opportunity to participate for free.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I just have just 2 quick ones. On the All Abilities Dance Movement, so it's being funded by Roro to Revere,
Correct.
so there's no cost to the
There's
families?
no cost.
That is wonderful.
I believe it's capped at about 10 children.
Okay.
So I don't know, again, Michelle would know best.
That's
but I
fine.
don't know if we're there yet.
And my other question was the CPAC meeting in May. How's the turnout?
So the turnout was more than we usually get, but again, it was right around 10 people. So
Okay.
it wasn't huge, but there were more new faces than we've seen before.
Wonderful.
One of our goals tomorrow night, I'm hoping to put forward a motion to move the location of the meeting. What we're finding is a lot of families want to come to the meeting, they don't have childcare, and we need a location that'll support families with children coming out to these meetings.
Great job, Enza. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business. One of the carryovers from last meeting is I wanted to, I asked everyone if they could think about when we started discussing ideas on Commission on Disabilities subcommittees and duties. So I just wanted to see if anybody had any ideas or any feedback on that.
Ralph, my one question is, if we do the subcommittee meetings, is that gonna affect in the budget that we just talked about?
No, subcommittee meetings are just basically going to be, what we're going to basically do is when we set up the subcommittees, it's just going to be basically so that it doesn't fall all on one person's shoulders and nothing slips through the cracks, whereas, see how Michelle found out about the All Abilities dance movement, so that we find programs and try and bring them in and they can try and put them together, and whereas another member could find some programs and take care of keeping that all organized for older adults with disabilities, things like that, just so it doesn't all get put into one and things get forgotten. So basically, to that idea, just as my best answer to that is how the City Council has different subcommittees. They have a Ways and Means subcommittee. They have DPW subcommittee, Parks and Rec subcommittee, but it wouldn't be that way. We would do it, possibly my idea is maybe age specific or something to that nature. So that's why I wanted to see how it is. So, because I know we were talking about being able to have outreach programs. So if we have outreach programs, you would be able to know when different events are being held for the seniors, so we would be able to be there with an outreach table. When there's something going on in the school systems, or CPAC, we'd be able to have an outreach table, or find some events or some programs that would be able to benefit people in that specific age group. Or not only a program, but informational programs also for people of those age groups. Whereas right now, we're trying to put everything into one, and some things get forgotten and not taken. So just trying to streamline the process. So any ideas and whatever, we're just trying to, almost like a checks and balance to take care of everything. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that.
I think it's a great idea, and we talked about it last time. It would be nice if, once we move forward with it, to embed it in this monthly meeting. I don't think we can necessarily commit to additional meeting times, so if during this monthly meeting we could share out, that would be great. I think the other piece to it is I think we need more members to be a part of this team, to get this to work in the way we envision it to work.
Thank you, and we'll address that when we get to the new business, but yeah, definitely what it will be is it won't be that you'll have to have, everything will have like subcommittee reports that will come right into the agenda. Basically, that's what we'll do it like that. So that's a very good point, but yeah, I know Vice Chair Rick Frenny will have some things on the new business regarding membership. So what we'll do is we'll just keep carrying this over into old business. Next, I was going to have Rick talk about the update on the Children's Full Inclusion Art Program.
All right, well, Robert and I have been working diligently on this. So the funding, as you know, has been secure there, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that. We do have a place. It'll be held in the lower level function hall of St. Mary's Parish over on Washington Street in Revere. We will not be charged for any rental room. I am the Holy Name president there, as you are the vice president there as well. And we have great communication with the staff there, as well as with our former priest, Father Barry, and our new priest, Father John Sheridan. and everyone was in agreement that we definitely can have it there. And it's a matter of just working out the schedule, because there are other groups that rent that hall during the week, but there are a couple of nights that they are open. But let it be known for the parents and guardians that are watching this, the art program is going to be fantastic, but it's not going to be a babysitting art program. Parents, anyone under 18 years old will be cannot participate unless they're with a parent, a guardian, or an adult over 18 years old that has custody of them for that evening. We're working on probably late afternoon, probably not till August at the earliest, only because it's just not enough time. The school year is ending, vacation starts. I go away in July. I know Mr. Chairman goes away in July. So I think we'll be better prepared to have it sometime in August, maybe mid-August. Probably be a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday. We're just not sure yet. Definitely won't be a Friday, and definitely not Monday. So it's one of those 3 days. We're pitching on an hour and a half to 2 hours. I do have a volunteer, young lady who is an art instructor, who will be donating her time to help us come up with some great creations, so it won't just be finger painting the sun and happy faces. There'll be proud pieces to put on your mantle or on your office desk. So Bob and I have been going back and forth, talking almost daily about this, whether it's on the phone or in Messenger or texting, and he's on board with this, and him and I got a nice little conversation going back and forth about this, and we're very excited to lead this, and I think it's going to lead to more programs and going back to the subcommittee. It's one of maybe the subcommittees you and I could head up going forward. Once again, it'll be for kids of all abilities, not just 3 to 9, but it'll be 3 to 22. So whether it's a preschool, early intervention, or post-grad, the flyers will be going out. They will be on the website. They will be going out to all the schools. We're hoping to get the date set up. The school year continues for special needs kids all summer long. There is a little break, but we will send a letter out to Dr. Kelly to send a Twitter message out to all the special ed teachers and paras, and we'll also drop a flyer off at all the schools, let them know what all the good things that Commission on Disabilities is up to, and I'm just proud to be a member here. I think we are definitely putting this thing on the map. We got some great leaders here, and this is only going to get better and better for our community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Robert?
First off, I'd like to thank you, Ralph, for your diligence in getting the budget done and helping me with that. Rick, for everything he's done with getting the place to have this. Like Rick just said, we'd like to get the parents out there to get these kids there, because that's what this is for, these kids. You know, and realistically, we wouldn't get this done if it wasn't for this board. And I'd like to thank everybody on the board.
Thank you. And also this art program that we're piloting, we did get the grant that we applied for, and this will be at no cost for these children, just to let you know. Go ahead.
And I'm also going to, once we have a date in place, I'm also going to touch base with my work, because I work at Target, and Target does do a lot of volunteer work. So I'm going to touch base with one of the managers and see what they can get some volunteers out.
Thank you. The next update I have is on the accessibility survey. I did send out an email to all you members to show you the statistical data, but I also printed it out if you guys wanted to take a look at it, because sometimes it's a lot easier than seeing it on the computer. There's not many entries that were in there, but it tabulates everything for us for the entries that you can just unclip that if you want. It just tabulates all the data, everything that's been inputted, so that we can see the statistical data. It helps, and there's also a spreadsheet with everything. So this was my goal for getting these accessibility surveys. So actually sent communication to Rick Promise from Revere TV to try and get the original letter that went out through the election department, that we do have the accessibility survey in both English and Spanish, to try and get that rolled on Revere TV. And I am also going to talk to both the Revere Journal and Revere Advocate to see if they can put that in the paper, because my goal is to try and get as many of the disabled residents or family members in the community to fill out the accessibility survey, so that we can have this data all on hand, so that we know who they are and we know what the needs are. Without that, it kind of handcuffs our commission. I'm not sure if anybody has anything else to add to that, or any other suggestions on how to get it out there.
I would just like to say to the residents of Revere who are disabled, who have a child who's disabled, a family member who's disabled, get these surveys out there, because without the surveys, we can't assist you.
Anyone else? The next item is just an update on the automatic door openers. I reached out to the mayor's office. The mayor's office had asked me to find the information on it, to try and do some of the legwork behind it. And I sent an email to the new DPW superintendent, Paul Agenzio, and he sent me an email back that he's going to work on it and find everything out for us, to try and get that facilitated for the electronic door opener here at City Hall, and also at the Legion Hall rear door and back door. So it's in the process. So I just wanted to keep everyone updated on that. So it's still in the process to get that done. If anybody has any questions on that, Rick, I think I had put you on the email too, Paul, but I don't know if he replied to you also on it.
He did. I was not included on the response, but I was on the original email, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Next item is going to be some late items. If there's anything, anyone has any late items, I'll turn it over to them.
Sure. Okay. Well, as Enza, excuse me, pointed out earlier, this commission is doing a lot of good things. We all point that out. We like to, maybe we're tapping ourselves on our back a little bit, but it's well deserved. But we need more help, and we need more volunteers, and there are a slew of people that want to be involved on this board, knowing the good that we're doing, knowing the good that can be done, that is yet to be done. With that, I've only been here a couple of months. I've been here, it's my third meeting. I know there's been a couple of members that are on the roster that are not present. One in particular, I believe perhaps may no longer want to be part of this, so I would like to make a motion to the mayor to ask him for a public hearing to have Mr. Dave Hesse removed from the Commission on Disabilities. Although, you know, this is a non-paying position, it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million or $1. If you're not here to help, we can't do anything with that. So I ask the mayor, Mayor Arrigo, to have a public hearing for the official removal of Mr. Hesse from the Commission on Disabilities Board. And if there are any other members that are on the board that cannot find the time or no longer want to be part of this, that is not a problem. Just contact our chairman and send a letter into the mayor's office that you wish to no longer be part of this commission, and we can fill up these seats with some great community advocates that want to advocate for us, for our mothers, our grandmothers, our fathers, our kids, everyone that's part of this community that needs help. The more voices we have, the more help we can do. So I leave that. Hopefully that was enough, Mr. Chairman.
You making that in a point of a motion to send to the mayor?
I am making it a point of motion, yes. I am making it a motion to send to the mayor's office for a public hearing for the official removal of Mr. Dave Hesse from the Commission on Disabilities Board. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
So moved. Will you type out an email, and then I will sign it and send it over to the mayor's office?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments on that, or any other concerns they'd like to address?
No, I think Rick said it best. I mean, we have people in this community that want to band together, who want to volunteer their time. And a lot of what we get done is through networking, and the only way we can do this is if we have all our seats full up here and we can work together.
And like Rick said, there's no ill feelings, and if you do not have the time, that's fine. But in order for us to move forward, we do need to have a full commission, especially now that we're going to be in the process of trying to set up some subcommittee groups, and we're going to be wanting to do some outreach for some certain events. I know there was talk about the sandcastles, but we wouldn't be able to do the sandcastle event, but there's the summer contest that we're able to do, the fall festival, but we definitely need a full commission to be able to do that. And we do understand that things do come up, and people's time does change and whatnot. So like the Vice Chair so eloquently stated, there is no ill feelings, but please let us know, and we'll get the communication to the mayor for that. Thank you. Any other late items?
Yes, I'd like to add one. This is for the children of all abilities here in the city. Spoke to Parks and Rec Director, Mr. Michael Hinojosa. A couple of years ago, for a few years, we, with the Little Ricky Foundation, we're able to have events during the summer and fall for children from 3 to 22, soccer camps, baseball games. So, and they provided food, and we did, the T-shirts and everything. So he is open to it, and they will fund it. He just is asking for us to help out and volunteer. We just need to look at the calendar that he has for events for the year, pick a few dates out for a soccer, basketball, baseball, and what we'll do is, we'll have my Olivia sing the national anthem, parents, it'll be a big barbecue, it'll be all kinds of food, popcorn and hamburgers and hot dogs, cotton candy, and we did it before a few times, and the events were wonderful. So those events will be posted on the website once we get all the logistics down with Michael Hinojosa. He's on board. He's excited to do it. He doesn't want to stop doing it. This is what it's all about. It's about all the children, the young people, young adults here in the city. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know if time permits and your calendars are open, I know I can count on the board to come on down and bring their kids and bring themselves and pass out hot dogs and make some cotton candy, Mr. Chairman, trying to eat it all, and then we'll have a good time. We'll have a blast. So I just want everyone to know that Mr. Hinojosa is on board with the Commission on Disabilities to host several events for the children of the city, which I think is wonderful. And this is something we can basically hit the ground running with, and we just need to find a day and just get the sign-ups, and we can either use the commission email for sign-ups, we can use the phone numbers, they can sign up through the Little Ricky Foundation, whatever they want to do. But I'm just happy that Mike's on board, and I'm looking forward to it. We had a blast in the past, and it was the parents and everyone. We gave out awards after, little trophies for all the kids that participated. It wasn't win or lose. It was just everyone just giving a shot, hitting the ball, kicking the soccer ball in the net, hitting the baseball, running around the field, hearing their name on the PA system. So I'm excited about it, Mr. Chairman. I'm excited about the rest of the board. And like I say, commission. I'm telling you, we're going to be a template for all the other communities here in the state. Once we, in another year, people are going to be copying what we're doing, which I think it's great for everyone here in the Commonwealth. But it's going to start right here in our little city of Revere. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Just one comment on the email access. We do have a disabilities@revere.org main email address that just we can have everything sent right to that.
That'll be perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments on that? Just one more thing, Rick, that I know we've had discussions with, and I know we've both spoken to Michael about, and we will get into more in depth with Michael about it, is that, and I know Enza touched on it briefly, that there is going to be a calendar for events for kids of all abilities and special needs, but one thing that we want to try doing is try and implement some more yearly programs for children with disabilities. So that's one thing. That's one of our other goals, to try and get the city of Revere on board with doing that, with the input and help from the Commission on Disabilities.
You're right, Linda. When I was talking to Mike, you know, once we do it this year, later summer and during the fall, we can set a schedule up for next year and pick out the dates. It'll be part of the original calendar that goes out to all the schools, and that's on the website. That, in coordination with the Commission on Disabilities, Parks and Rec, and Mayor Arrigo, are proud to present Kids of All Abilities baseball game. Here's the email, here's the number, T-shirts, everything will be involved. So, and going down the road, we can always get sponsors. We can get people like Target and local restaurants and Roro to Revere and everyone else to help out. But this year, it's just getting everyone back out there in the fields, having some fun, and then next year, we'll take it up to another level. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And also, I know that the mayor and his administration were looking into, and I'm not sure if they've already purchased it through with the rec center's help, some basketball nets that adjust for kids of all abilities. Not sure where those are going to be being placed, but that's something that's going to be coming online soon. And then, of course, my big thing with Heim Investment Group for the Suffolk Downs to try and create a park for people of all abilities that will hopefully be coming online in the near future. So with the help of the commission, that will be another goal that we'll be doing. I don't know if anyone else has any other late items. Robert?
This is just a dot that I actually was thinking about last night. I know they have all kinds of different walks with different, things, whether it's the AIDS walk, the autism walk, which Enta was a part of. What I would like to see in the city of Revere is maybe a walk for all abilities, and get donations from that, and see where if we can get things going, where we can have these programs and have the money to get these programs, because we have the donations.
So that's a great idea, and that would be something that would be part of one of the subcommittees. Exactly. That would be like what one of the subcommittees would be working on. Yeah, exactly. So that's how we came up with some basic titles, things like that for the community to try and bring some funds in. So if anybody wants to donate, we don't even have to do a walk too. You can donate to the Commission on Disabilities for us to start programs too, and not have to donate to Vice Chair Rick Frenny. Great idea, and yes, definitely.
Yeah, it kind of came up probably when they had the meeting earlier that, Mark Silvestri was there with the Veterans Affairs. There's so many people out there that have disabilities, whether it's physical, mental, whatever. Let's get them all together and let's have some fun.
Thank you. Anyone else on top of that?
Yeah, on top of that, I just say, I think that's a great idea. I can't believe no one ever thought of that. A walk for all abilities, that's great. The autism walk is just fantastic. It's only going to get better and bigger every year. But, yeah, walk for all abilities would be great, something we could do, later on in the year, probably maybe for next year. But great idea, and I nominate Robert to head up that subcommittee.
What we can do too is possibly, if someone wants to draw up a letter with that idea, I can pass that on to the mayor and the administration to see if we can get the city to take the lead with the assistance of our Commission on Disabilities to help us on that. Great idea. Any other late items? I just have one communication that I received. It was an invitation letter for the second annual Moroccan Culture Day. Came to me and the Commission on Disabilities, and I'll read it. So please bear with me. It's a very proud day to the Moroccan American community in Revere to announce the second annual Moroccan Culture Day for 2018. We are organizing an event that we believe will surpass the one in 2017. The primary goal of the Culture Day is to once again show the people of Revere that the Moroccan American community plays an integral role in the city while at the same time displaying the culture of our motherland. This year's event will take place on Saturday, June 23rd from 3 to 7 p.m. It will again take place on Shirley Ave at the municipal parking lot. All the people of Revere and beyond are cordially invited to attend this year's Moroccan Culture Day, including family and friends. We are once again inviting government officials, and all our guests are invited to speak to them personally. When we speak about the culture of Morocco, we include music, food, art, and more. For example, this year, the men and women are invited to participate in Moroccan dress contest. The winners will be presented to the audience and receive the title of Miss and Mr. Moroccan American. We have also included the favorite sport in Morocco, soccer. There will be a soccer tournament dedicated to the memory of the late City Councilor Bob Hass. Not only is this tournament local, but there will be teams from Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. All of the funds raised by the soccer tournament will be presented to Revere High School to be used as a scholarship. Finally, and most importantly, the most spectacular happening at the Cultural Day will not be announced in this letter. It is too special. However, it involves Casablanca, Morocco. This will get everyone to come to the Moroccan Culture Day and will be worth it. We hope to see you there on June 23rd. Yours truly, I don't want to try making a mistake on his first and last name, but it was the Moroccan American Connections in Revere. So it was an invitation to the Commission on Disabilities. So again, it's there's an email the email is info@macir.org, and the website is www.macir.org. I can give this right to you. Okay. So. Next, I know there's so many people here, so next is the open forum with all the residents for concerns with ongoing issues, questions, and feedback. So this is going to take a lot of time. So we'll start from the back corner and proceed to the front. I'm only kidding. I know, I wanted to be a comedian tonight.
Well, they're all home watching on TV. I think they prefer the comfort and the cool of their air conditioner at home.
Exactly.
They don't realize the chambers are air conditioned, Mr. Chairman. Make sure you let them know that.
Let them, yeah, it's very cool in here. It's nice and comfortable, and you don't have to waste your electricity at home. So for next steps, we have a few next steps, right? Communication to the mayor for the public hearing, and then also what do we have?
We have the communication going to the mayor for the, asking for the removal of Commission member Dave Hesse.
Yep.
And we will write a letter to the mayor, an email, send it over.
Also the all abilities, talking about the all abilities, having a discussion on all abilities walk.
Yeah, the all abilities walk, right, and then we spoke about talking with Michael Hinojosa, the director of the Parks and Rec, all the events we are going to have planned, and it's going to be some outstanding events here for the community, especially for those that don't get to experience the events as they should. It's an all-inclusive. All these events come up all-inclusive, so it's going to be great. It's going to be people of all abilities, whether they're 3 or 22, parents, grandparents. It's going to be a wonderful time, Mr. Chairman. I believe that's what you mean when you say additional notes, right? Next steps?
Yeah, and
There's
also
nothing-
the next step for what we want to do at our August meeting is establishment of 3 or 4 subcommittees.
You think that's too many, Enzo? 3 or 4, is that enough? Okay.
Okay?
All right, yes, sir.
Okay. Last thing is the reminder, just the general reminder that I do after every meeting is the Commission on Disabilities office hours are on Fridays from 8:15 to 12:15, and the Veteran Services Office in the rear of the Legion Building at 249 rear Broadway, which is next door to City Hall. You can call for an appointment if you would like, but you do not need one. You'll be able to talk to someone from our 311 Constituent Services offices on other days when you call. Our office at 781-286-8267. They'll be able to answer most of your questions, but if they are unable to, or if you would like a call back from our office, they can transfer you to the Disabilities office's voicemail, and someone will get back to you as soon as they can. Also, please let us know if you would like something discussed or brought up and added to our monthly meeting agendas. You can also let us know if you'd like to come up and speak on any issues or concerns. The Commission is here to help and assist all of the disabled residents and families of Revere. Also, I just wanted to let people know that our disabilities office hour on the week of the 4th of July, I'll get you that exact date. July 6th, we will not have office hours. So I just wanted to let you know, but we can still be reached by telephone. I will unfortunately be away on July 6th, and it's really a vacation week. So it's kind of a tough week to hold office hours anyways, but it can still be reached by phone. So I just wanted to let everyone know in advance. Also, our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 14th. 2018 at 6 p.m. We will not be having a meeting in July because of the holiday. So if I can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And everyone, please have a safe and happy 4th of July. Motion adjourned. Always wanted to do that.